is Real Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
Plenty to dive into on the Real Kyper and Bourne show. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Derek Brandeo, Sammy McKee, and David Sisboomba. Not filling in for Jennifer Rolnick. He is
the guy
now.
Hey, what is Sisboomba from? I know it's a thing and it's a generational thing here.
I don't know. I don't know.
It's a real thing.
I think I've heard it once or twice in my life.
I've heard it.
But I saw his name, and that's the only thing I came up with.
I'm figuring it out.
I think it's a 50s thing.
It's from Johnny Carson.
Johnny Carson.
Okay. That works.
Does it help us at all? Rah-rah Sisboomba?
I have no idea.
Princeton and Rutgers. Let's just
Was there a little Sisboomba last night in Buffalo?
Yeah.
That's what we got to ask. Thank God they don't listen to you about not liking John Tavares on the wing.
Oh, come on.
You just poo-pooed all over it. I said, situational. Last night was a good situation. They ended up with 13 points. Right?
Who could have ever seen it coming? Now, I think we did a fair job of saying that we did see a lot of small area passes, that it could work when they're in the offensive zone. We liked some things. You know, we liked John Tavares at center type of thing, but there was a note that Sammy tweeted out last night where it's like...
Sammy bailed. He just got so scared of Twitter, dumping all over him. He tried to make... What would you say last night on Twitter? I think we spent 40 minutes on that line?
Yeah, we spent 40 minutes talking and nitpicking at this line, and legitimately 5 minutes into the game, they had 9 points. It was the just under 15 mark when O'Reilly scored the second one.
So does last night like completely tell you that you'll never nitpick the line again, and that this is set in stone, and this is the future of the Toronto Maple Leafs for the next few months?
No.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it felt pretty good last night.
What a showing.
Smokes.
That was awesome.
The Harlem Globetrotters versus the Washington Generals.
There was a moment there where it was just like, well, and Keefe talked, and we'll get to all his quotes and stuff. He talked about like, that's how it looks when every facet of the game is executed the way we want to play. That's the dream scenario. Now, not the dream 60, but, you know, for the first 15 minutes of that first period, that's what it looks like. That's the plan.
I can't imagine, just to look at it from a Buffalo Sabres perspective and a fan perspective, I can't imagine the nightmare night that was for Buffalo Sabres fans in that building. Like, first of all, if I was a Sabres fan, like, you know, you're really excited to play against the Leafs, but that's one you got to tread lightly against. Yeah. Going in there, they're a good team. It's going to be half idiot Leaf fans like me screaming at you, crushing beers. And to have the guy that legitimately said he lost passion playing for your franchise, he fell out of love of the game, go in there playing for his hometown team,
passion unites us all.
Scoring a hat trick, looking unbelievable. That couldn't have been a fun night. I would have left. I would have left immediately after the second goal. I would have been out of there. Like, turn and burn, baby. I'm gone.
I've not watched every minute of the Buffalo Sabres, but I wouldn't be a stretch to say that was the worst 12 minutes that they'll ever have.
Yeah.
Maybe in 10 years. I don't know, but that was a horrific 12 minutes.
It was. The one thing that we did say on the show is that last night was the exact scenario where you expect the Leafs to play well, right? Like I actually bet them minus a goal and a half last night. They just had a bad game against Chicago. They've got more respect for Buffalo than they used to. O'Reilly's in his third game there. They've finally got a little flow. Like that was it. And so I give the Leafs credit for how bad Buffalo looked. You know, sometimes we watch a game, we go, man, that team stunk. I give the Leafs a lot of credit for that first period.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm just going to say that they were on, like, they didn't give them a second to breathe from the very second the puck dropped. I just felt like it was a swarming effort for the first 7 or 8 minutes of that game.
Maybe Mitch Marner's best game of the year.
A hat trick by Ryan O'Reilly, 13 points among the group. You mentioned Mitch Marner, first Leaf player with 5-assist game on the road since Borja the King Salming. He did that in 1977 against the Minnesota North Stars.
5 assists. I mean, the first assist is some of the best vision. So, Brody gaps up, takes the puck away. Tavares gets it to Marner. And when Marner starts to make the pass to O'Reilly, I don't know if O'Reilly's in the offensive zone yet. He has to and then to execute the hook pass there, that's Mitch Marner at his absolute best last night.
I agree with you. The thing that stood out to me too with Mitch, it's just not those passes that you're talking about, but his ability to still find a way to be responsible, third man high, cut off neutral zone plays.
Yeah, get pucks back.
I don't know what he ended up with. 6 takeaways on record. I don't know if there's a better complete 200-foot player out there right now.
Yeah.
And that includes Connor McDavid.
I mean, that's
right.
Yeah. I mean,
I think the part of that's fair is the defensive play. There's no comparison in terms of the two's defensive plays.
The commitment to that side of it for sure.
But I mean, McDavid is on a different
and we'll
planet.
get to that.
Yeah.
We'll get to that a little later on the show and what he's been able to do in such a short period of time amongst the history's greatest. But I mean, what else stood out for you with that line in particular?
Well, it's another option, another guy who, I don't want to use like winner and champion and whatever, but he knows where to be when. And for Marner, he puts those guys who know where to be, he makes them into the best version of themselves. Austin Matthews is a great example. Tavares getting 47 with him. O'Reilly is just the latest guy who knows how to get in good spots. And when someone can get you a puck in all those little spots, it's just, it maximizes the intelligence of the guys you plays with.
Yeah, and that's what stood out for me too, is I saw, again, small sample size, but a ton of chemistry between O'Reilly and Mitch Marner.
Which, throws an interesting wrinkle into things. Like, let's say those two have a great sense for one another and where they're going to be. You don't feel like John Tavares can go be the third line center. That doesn't work for me. He needs someone with him that can.
And John Tavares and Mitch have played a lot together this year.
Yeah.
And they've managed to get points.
Yeah.
But it's never really off the backs of each other. And I don't know, how many goals does Mitch Marner have? 20? 21, 22?
I think he just scored his 20th against the Blackhawks.
How many would you say that John Tavares has been a primary assist on his goals?
I mean, I can't remember any directly.
I don't know.
I'm sure some, but
3?
Yeah.
That doesn't seem to be a lot for two guys that are playing together on a contending team. And to me, I instantly saw a better kind of 1-2 scenario with Ryan O'Reilly and Tavares can play real well in those short areas that we talked about yesterday and find a way to end up. What did he end up with? 1 and 3 last night.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's smart enough. And
he was awesome last night too.
That play off the wall where he put it back into Mitch Marner through his legs off the wall was a fantastic play.
Yeah.
But now that you've got a real thinking man in Ryan O'Reilly, there's no question that that line can have tremendous success. The only question is it there to stay? If you want to talk about versatility of Ryan O'Reilly, then you're going to put him in different scenarios. And obviously one option is to drop him to a third center spot.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've got an article coming out on sportsnet.ca today looking at the Leafs lines and what comes next for this group. We're going to get to Sheldon. Do we want to start with?
I just want to make sure that we point out, because you're saying that Marner and O'Reilly had good chemistry.
Yes.
The 2 even strength goals that they scored right away, bing, bang, were 2 excellent plays by Tavares that you mentioned. The first one off the wall, getting it down to Marner, like you mentioned. And then off the wall on the second play where he digs a puck out and fires it across to Marner and the give and go with O'Reilly. He was instrumental in both those goals as well, looking very comfortable on vacation on the wing.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be interesting if they could conceivably play well enough to make life hard for Sheldon in terms of decision making, and that's what my article today is about. Is like the next look that they're going to have. So we know that they're not just going to keep this line until playoffs. They are going to change it, and this is part of an intentional plan. Again, we're going to get to Sheldon's clips on this, but the next look is exactly what you had before: Bunting, Matthews, Nylander, Tavares, Marner, and Kerfoot. And then back to it's O'Reilly, Yarncroc, Engvall, and hope that you suddenly have a third line that can score. We're going to see that at some point. It's going to be hard not to go back to this quickly every time you don't have goals, though, because that looked sexy.
That's why it's going to it right away. Now, when you go away from it, everyone's like, "Why the hell aren't you just going back to that?"
Yeah.
Get the Ontario line, the passion line back
What are we
together.
calling it?
Is that you calling them the Ontario line?
There's a
or is
million
that-
different names.
No,
it was
it
just
started already, right?
It was just easier than writing down all three of their names, so I just put Ontario line. But I saw a good one as OHL, Ontario Hockey Leafs.
I saw a show just was leaving the studio. He was on before us, said that they took some text, and MTO was big because it's Marner, Tavares, O'Reilly, but it's
Ministry
also
of
the Ministry of Transportation,
Are we
Ontario.
holding contests now?
Sure. What do you think, Kep? You got an idea?
No.
Okay.
No, not yet.
Okay.
Kip's not the
Like
line
to-
naming type. Yeah?
Maybe 2 weeks from now.
I was gonna
Okay.
say maybe when they have more than one good game together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
All right. For naming sake, let's go to Sheldon Kyper, first Kipper's Clipper, on what he saw out of the Ontario line.
Well, obviously, they were just at their best right from the start. But like as we talked about leading into the game, I thought that group was close the other night to a few chances. Obviously, Riley missed a breakaway right at the very end of the game, and that one probably sits with them for a bit. But yeah, I thought that line, our team in general, our team game in that first period, that's as dominant as we've been all season long. So it was tremendous to see.
So I just mentioned the Ontario line, and
Yeah.
we were talking about that, and I saw an unbelievable tweet from Kevin Papetti, who's a great Twitter follow, and the Toronto's goals last night. No, the first one, Ontario from Ontario and Ontario. The second goal, Ontario from Ontario and Ontario. Third goal, Ontario from Ontario and Ontario. Fourth, Ontario from BC and Alberta's own William Nylander. Alberta's own William Nylander from Ontario and Ontario. And then the sixth one, Ontario from Ontario.
So he's telling us you don't need Arizona anymore. That's what you're telling us.
Listen, I'd be lying if I said I didn't dream of a day where it was like this, where there was a long time where we had these conversations that they don't have any guys from Ontario on their team. They don't have Toronto area guys. There might have been a certain pundit that did intermissions on Hockey Night in Canada that this is one of his biggest gripes about how there was no Ontario guys. Like, I don't want to necessarily take it for granted how interesting and cool this is for the Leafs to have this many contributions from Ontario guys.
You know, that's something that you could speak to uniquely, I think, and Kip, obviously you too. Like, I'm not from here.
Matters.
You know, yeah, like I being a BC guy, it would have registered to me that it was important, but they're being here long enough now, there is a pride and not just a
passion, if
we
you
are
will.
a passion that unites us.
Yes.
Not just a Canada-wide thing, but yeah, I can see how that's a cool thing.
No question that for whatever reason over the many years, it just wasn't that valued.
Mm-hmm.
It was draft the most skilled player.
So do you think this
Doesn't
is
matter where he's
at
from.
all intentional? Or do you think this is just luck of the draw? Where's Achari from? Is he Ontario?
He's from Maine, I think.
Maine.
He's
That's not here
American.
at all.
Yeah, no, he's from Maine, I think, yeah.
You love Ryan O'Reilly. I think the first thing you do when you want to know about a player is not necessarily go to his birth province, or
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just an added thing. In this case, maybe a coincidence for Ryan O'Reilly.
But
If
you know
he
what,
was
Dubas,
from wherever he is, you'd love to have him on your team.
yeah, but maybe like a bonus thing, whether it's Jason Spezza or Wayne Simmons or Joe Thornton. I think all those guys are Ontario guys, are they not?
Yeah.
Like, you know,
But
some
you all those guys were after their prime, though. Their
Yeah.
expiration date was removed.
Mhm. It was tough to focus on anything other than that line because they were just so unbelievable. But it really does change their lineup below. The fourth line last night for the Leafs was Aston Reese, Achari, and Kerfoot.
And Aston Reese looks better to me with a guy like Achari.
Do you think it's motivation or fear,
No,
or
I think it's just a domino effect. That's all. There's an energy that he brings, and I think it's crystal clear that if you don't come close to looking like that guy, then you run the risk of really making yourself look bad.
Yeah.
And I think a guy like Achari can lift people up like good players can.
Yeah.
You can do it physically as well.
Yeah.
You can guilt people into playing a little harder or playing a little more noticeable, not taking that many shifts off. And that's why I think Achari is such a strong pickup.
It is interesting too, and I know it doesn't matter, but we had on whoever it was, Jamal Mayers, and I asked him about Achari fighting. He says, no, not going to fight, but he does it, blah, blah, blah. Achari has 7 NHL fights. Like my point there is just that he will stand in with someone, be in their face. There's more of a willingness now on that line to engage.
I've seen a couple of his fights too. You can chuck him.
Pretty good. I mean, he's a cube. He's 5'10", 210.
And I mean, how much of the Zach Aston Reese, elevating his game here, I guess, for lack of a better term, is him being like, oh God, looks like I'm the next one out. I could be the next one out here, which is good because it creates internal competition. And I think what Kyper said about him he's run into more people in the last, I know he kind of has a lot of hits on the stat sheet, but it doesn't necessarily translate.
Not impactful ones.
I think the eye test with him throwing his weight around since Achari's come in has definitely been better. So maybe it's just a little bit of him fearing for his own job at this point.
For sure.
Yeah, you're either with us or against us now.
Yeah.
And I think that's where these two guys can really elevate the dressing room. It's the ripple effect.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they look good all the way through, and you're going to have nights where they're not as good. But, last night they didn't get anything from the Matthews line, but the Matthews line is there to be the Matthews line. Like, they're going to get that on some nights too. And you feel really good about that forward group.
Sheldon Keefe spoke about that forward group. Would you like to hear about that?
I'd love to. I actually don't have my lineup, so you just tell me when there's relevant clips.
You don't have your lineup?
I just forgot it.
Oh, do you want me to get you one?
We'll talk later.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, like I said, our team game. I mean, obviously it was that line that broke out tonight. Next night it might be the Matthews line. It might be each line spread out. But I think that's as I said to the guys, that's what it's supposed to look like. In terms of the team game, we're supposed to counter quickly on offense. Most of our goals came out of good defending and shutting down the neutral zone and transitioning the other way. That was the key for us going into the hockey game, and the guys executed at a high level. So happened to be the O'Reilly line to get us going, which was great. But, Bunt scores us a great goal, and I thought the Kampf and the Achari lines were really, really good defensively and gave us good shifts too.
Yeah, the really, really good defensively stuff is interesting. I meant to mention this after Montreal-Chicago, but Jen Botterill did a nice bit on Achari in the first couple games and getting back above and reloading. We talked early in the season about the Leafs when they're at their defensive best, getting back above and reloading, trying to bail out the D. And with this team defense, they have it. They added 2 guys that add that element that Marner already has, which you mentioned, and Kampf already does. And they got a bunch of forwards who are really good defensively now. It's lovely.
Can they also play defense?
Can you put one of them on defense? Why would you like someone to plug a hole last night that became very visible? Let's just say it. And I know we're not ready to go here yet. But
no, we're not ready.
We're going
to
save it?
Yeah,
okay.
We're going to save it because we want to hear from Sheldon Keefe on letting the Sabres back in it, because it will lead to our next conversation. How's that?
Good.
Well, when you have like I said, when you have a period like we did, and you grab control of the game on the road the way that we did, you're not going to get too critical of the rest of the game from there. That said, while there's a great sample of what it's supposed to look like and what we're capable of, I think there's still plenty in there in the second half of the game that shows why we need to stay on our habits, on our details all the way through, regardless of score or opponent.
Yeah.
I'm not really buying that.
I do buy it. Like once you're up like 5-0.
Yeah,
can
I
you
mean,
judge the rest of the game?
Yeah, you can.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
Kyper,
you can.
you know, like you've
No, I'm
played in a
sorry.
million hockey games in
No,
your
I'm
life, buddy.
sorry.
Come on.
No.
Listen,
no.
they were bad. They were bad.
No, don't let them back
But-
in. Don't let them back in. No butts.
Yeah, there's butts. There's a couple butts here.
Candy nuts, butts.
You don't think
Christmas,
there's?
yada yada.
It's human nature. It's
No, it's
impossible
not
to coach it
human
out.
nature.
Every team does this.
No, every team does it. Did Tampa Bay do it last night against
It's a different
Anaheim?
animal.
Oh, excuse me.
They're playing the Ducks. You're comparing the Ducks and the Sabres to the same thing?
I'm talking about a 5-0 lead and putting your foot on their throats. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, they could have got a save here and there, maybe.
That would have helped too.
Come on, guys.
Okay.
Finish it off.
I mean,
You went from a 5-0 lead halfway through to giving up a quality chance to Tage Thompson to get them within one goal with 2 minutes to go. Sammy, sorry, bud, but your bar is way too low for me on this one. Mid.
I'm just, I don't like them letting
And
them back
Sheldon's, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think there's a level between what we're talking about here where it's fair to expect more than how that game finished. And at the same time saying when it's 5-0, I don't expect the same performance. And maybe you should as a coach, you should. But it's
Why not ask for it?
You should
Why
ask
not
for it.
demand it?
He should, for sure. But I, as Sammy mentioned with human nature, it's just there's no team that then goes on to win
His
10-0.
human nature, he's a beer league guy. Okay? That's the human nature.
Okay.
That he doesn't care, and he's going to go get his beers and his chicken wings, and he's going to go home.
Yeah, chicken wing eating.
I don't eat
beer
wings
leaguer.
I don't eat wings after hockey.
But not,
My body's
not a
temple.
team that has to still learn how to finish teams off when you've got a reputation for underachieving against the bottom 6 teams in the league. I'm sorry.
You know, they have had press conferences after playoff series where they've said killer instinct. We're looking for killer instinct. I understand that is a relevant factor here. It is hard for me after a game last night for that to be the thing that fires me up, given what I saw from the rest of the team. But I don't disagree that as the coach, you may say, hey, you don't just want to get up at 5-0 and walk away from it.
Even if you feel it, don't let them off the hook publicly. That's all.
Yep. Yeah, no, that didn't end well. But to Sammy's point, Samsonov didn't make me feel very good for a guy who just won a hockey game 6-3 and, had a couple really good periods by and large.
I thought he was good, really good in the first and second period.
Yeah.
But yeah, the 2 of those goals, it could have very easily been a 6-1 game. But, they missed a couple chances too where it could have been 5-5 too. So I know,
we can also sit here and Lukkinen, what's his name?
Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen.
Lukkinen.
Someone shoot the
He
puck
was
in.
god awful
Yeah.
the first 12 minutes, and that's not.
Which one did you want him
The
to?
only one I would want him to have is Bunting.
Which one you want him to have?
Bunting's was
Bunting? Yeah,
horrible.
but I mean, he got beat clean on 3 nasty plays. Like
I don't know.
They were all over him. Listen,
a 60-foot one-timer, Brian O'Reilly's one-timer is not an easy shot. It was an incredible shot, but that's not one that you should be beaten on off of a strong side one-timer. That's all.
Tough crowd. That's all I got to say,
Listen,
Kip.
I'm just saying you can play it. You can play it both ways here with Samsonov and Buffalo's goaltending. But
I'm the
I
number.
get it. The game was over 12 minutes in. I get it.
The number one person I'm blaming for that comeback is probably the goalie. Shots kind of hit the middle of the net. Like they're clean. That's the thing that's really getting to me recently about Samsonov when I'm watching these games is he's getting beat clean a lot. Like clean looks, they just get through him. It's not like they're tip shots. They're just he's staring down the shooter and they're beating him clean. And that is not what I like to see.
He just, you going into playoffs with Samsonov, you feel like you can win. I feel like they can win a playoff series and more with him, but I don't feel like he's going to win them a series they don't deserve to win. Like Vasilevsky, you can be sitting here at the end of a Tampa Bay series going, I don't know who was the better team, but that team has Vasilevsky, and that's why they won. we're not having that conversation about Samsonov, I don't think. So, yeah, it raises the expectations for the Leafs. All right, we got a couple other clips here. Sammy, is there either one of these that you recommend you want to see next?
Yeah, let's go with the sticking with the Ontario line because there's some interesting stuff about Tavares in there.
Right.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I didn't put any sort of timeline on it other than, to just to say that I wasn't going to do it for 1 or 2 games. I think we owe it to the line to spend some real time together. It would have been easy the other night after a loss, and maybe it didn't go so great to break it up. But I feel like our third and fourth lines have been so good. There's lots of reasons to just stay with it, and I felt like they were close. So I think it's a good sample of what we're capable of. I still feel at the end of the day, we're going to have John back in center and all those kind of things. But it's, you want to build chemistry and you want to build confidence that if and when you go to it, that's what it's capable of.
That's the pull quote from the presser is, at the end of the day, we feel like John Tavares is still going to end up at center. Right? Given our show yesterday.
Didn't we say that?
We said that we thought that should be the end game. Yeah.
Well, we just said that we probably would have worked it the other way around.
Started there.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
And we said, of course, if you're down a goal and they're situational, the good news is in a short period of time, you found out that there's chemistry there. And that's what he talked about. Let them build chemistry. Okay, it's there. There's no question about that.
But it is interesting to me. I think he saw the quote from yesterday where he said it's not a one-off. I think he saw that quote getting away from him a bit. And as in it's a commitment to this line. This line is a thing. If I break it up, it's a failure.
So he talked too much.
I think so. I definitely think that this is like a get out ahead of it and say,
We're open to everything.
We're going to go back to other looks just to clarify. It's not a one-off, but we're not married to it.
Is there a chance that Ryan O'Reilly and Marner have such great chemistry that you actually may have to put John at center on a third line?
As I was saying earlier in the show, I just don't think you can. I think Tavares needs someone to work with offensively. He's so elite at getting in a position to put the puck in the net that he needs someone to get him the puck there. And who's a disher left on the team?
Yeah.
Who's another setup guy on the Toronto Maple Leafs? It's not Engvall. It's not Yarncroc. Kerfoot maybe passes it a bit.
And he needs that because he's the finisher. He's not the playmaker. Like I said, I think he's got one primary assist on Mitch Marner all season.
Is that right? Yeah.
I do like the idea of John Tavares against third line matchups, though.
I do too. Yeah.
I don't think you're gonna find a much better third line center in the NHL than John Tavares.
No,
but
then you'd have to make an effort to keep Kerfoot with him. Then,
Yeah.
to keep some sort of
pace and passing ability and whatever.
just high end ability.
Yeah, but
You got
What are you writing in watercolor today?
Oh,
What kind of marker do you have?
I got a broken marker, and it's just like it's like a roller paint.
What are you?
It's like I'm rolling paint.
What thickness is that font? Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
wild. Okay.
What are you writing?
And by the way, thank you for the book.
Oh yeah,
And
no problem.
you wrote something very nice to me, and
I meant it.
as I'm reading it, all I can think of is that you've got horrible penmanship.
I do. That's why the book has to be typed
First
and
thing
not
that came to
handwritten.
me when you
I
said
couldn't-
all these nice things about me, that's the first thing that came to me is like, man, you got horrible penmanship.
Just child's handwriting. But it's quicker than printing.
It's better than my my paintbrush here.
Yeah, there you go.
For sure. We've got a couple of ex-Leafs on the show today, including Colby Armstrong in the next hour, Brad May in about 15 minutes. So we'll get their thoughts on what they saw out of Ryan O'Reilly, John Tavares, and Mitch Marner. Are we done on the blue line? Any concerns at all last night?
Yeah, lots.
Yeah, many.
Why didn't you bring it up when I was talking about a blown 5-0 lead?
Because
You went to Samsonov. You just pooped all over him.
Yeah.
But you didn't mention anything else.
Listen, I didn't love Connor Timmins yet again. I wouldn't say. I didn't love his game last night.
I mean, 2 games in a row where I've been, wow, he's looked really bad for me.
Riley still makes some plays that leave me scratching my head, and I don't like doing it every show. I feel like you can kind of bring it up whenever you want, but there's question marks there. it really seems like a decor to me that's one piece short.
Wasn't it your boy Papetti who had a poll? Who would you prefer,
Yes.
Timmins or Justin Hall? And people picked Timmins like 75% to 25%.
Hall did get burned last night pretty bad on the Skinner goal, where he was kind of too close to the middle of the ice, and he beats him outside and shoots it in the middle of the net from the top of the circle. But
Too close to the middle.
Yeah.
Riley's too far off the wall.
it was not pretty.
But Timmins, a couple of turnovers in his first couple shifts, chasing a guy. We shared that clip in our group of him sort of chasing a forecheck. Well, he should be backing up and defending.
Up 5-0.
And part of it was he on for the third goal against there. We don't need to do the breakdown of it, but some concern if this guy's going to be in playoffs, which he very well may be, right? They're 7 right now. You're probably going to see your number 7D. I would say every team who's ever won a Stanley Cup has played 7 defensemen. Is that fair? Think any team's ever just gone 6 all the way through?
Oh, the Habs
Are
played
you
4
nuts?
guys.
I said 9.
No, I know. It's
Right?
more common to go 9 than
Habs played 4 guys.
4 guys. That's right. That's true.
Yeah,
I didn't know it.
maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't. Yeah, the bottom 2 guys played 5 minutes a night.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
The weirdest run to the Cup final in league history.
Definitely. So I don't know. Like, do you think they have the ability to add something else on the back end here? Because it really feels like they need it.
If you do the fancy stat stuff, go ahead, Kim.
Yeah, I was wondering between now and next Friday, right? That's what we're looking at.
Yeah, next Friday.
We're
Like
there.
we're on the clock.
9 days here.
9 days. Like, how much more do you want to see? Do you think that if they can get that sweet spot that they had earlier in the year, that could be enough?
Enough to what?
That's a good question.
You mean
Beat Tampa Bay. How about that? Let's start there.
you mean the stretch when their highest paid defenseman was out of the lineup?
Was that when they were at their best?
Definitely. Defensively, definitely.
Yeah.
Then yes. Can they hit that with Morgan Riley?
You know what's crazy is Riley has made some real Morgan Riley plays in the last couple weeks, like the pass to Marner off the end wall, like unique vision, creativity, whatever.
He has to get involved. You could just see it that he's got this itch that needs to be scratched by jumping
Just
up
a
on the play
magnetic
and
pull to the
getting
opposite
involved.
net.
And when it's on, it's good.
Yeah. Well, he's made these plays, but at the same times, you're talking about him being too far outside. A couple of plays last night where he gets outside the dots. Someone takes him to the inside, and you're not changing him now. He's just, yes, you can maybe coach him up a little bit to say, we'd like you to adjust your slider bar a little bit more to the defensive side of things, but.
Well, is the ask now for the forwards to just be that much more diligent in their back checking or their back pressure to bail out?
But I think we've talked about this a lot this year, but there can't be a much more defensively responsible forward group in the league than the Leafs. So if you are going to have that kind of defenseman, I think you do have a forward core that's really committed and coached up well to play defense now.
Yeah.
But you still need guys to play defense. But I'm just saying, like, they are responsible.
Yep, for sure.
There is news that maybe Matt Murray is really close here to coming back.
Okay.
And I'm just wondering.
Good timing, I would say.
Well, it's timing where you also have to make a decision here. Do you not? Whether or not.
On Murray.
Yeah. What's the term? Fish or cut bait?
Sure, sounds right.
Did I get one right?
Yeah, I think you did.
Okay.
Our show is wildly bad at getting those sort of things right, but yes.
Like with the trade deadline again, do you feel like you are comfortable enough that this guy will not disappear on you?
No, yeah. So you're asking me, I'm not comfortable. I'm not comfortable at all. But, we've done that on this show too. What else is available? But I think what you might have to do is, let's say Matt Murray's ready to come back. You got to play him as many times as you can before the deadline, don't you?
I thought we were gung-ho to get Samsonov ready for game one.
We need to know if Murray's going to be a goalie in the league or not.
Yeah.
This is like terrible timing. I guess it could be worse. It could be happening a month from now. So At least you get him back and you figure out if he can figure it out.
And the crazy part about it is,
What do they got up to the deadline
they've
for
got
games?
Mini at home.
So
Could you get Matt Murray in
this Friday?
this Friday?
Yeah.
Because
he's going in for me.
it gets kind of greasy next week. Seattle, Edmonton, Calgary, and Vancouver.
So
all
5
West
games
Coast.
pre-deadline? Or is one of those games on the 3rd?
No, they play
Three after Friday.
Okay.
So
5 total games from now till the deadline.
and Calgary and Edmonton are
No,
back
4.
to back.
4 total. Okay.
Yeah, and Calgary and Edmonton are on back to back.
4 total. So I don't know. I gotta think maybe Fridays feels rushed. I don't know.
I don't care. I'm impatient. I am. No, I'm
But
like
you're the indication you're getting is that he could be ready to play Friday, Kip?
Maybe a little bit of a outside shot, but I heard he's really close, and that time to get him back in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's coming at a good time with a bit of a swoon for Samsonov where you're like,
You could play him in Seattle.
yeah?
yeah. I just so badly don't want to be sitting here in early May going, man, they outplayed the hell out of Tampa, beat the brakes off them. But Alex Killorn shot 3 in from the top of the faceoff circles through Matt Murray's body. Like, I'm very uncomfortable with Matt Murray.
Listen, that is really realistic.
I know.
That's the scary part. Like, said it once, I'll say it again. That is the absolute elephant in the room. And all of this incredible buzz around the win last night. Ryan O'Reilly hat trick, forward core deep. They got to get saves too.
Yeah.
Like it's a real concern for me.
This is fork in the road here. His career is hanging on by a thread.
Yeah, if the fork is going in him next, if he's not able to come in and play. Like if you're another team looking at Murray and saying he can't be available, who's going to take on that money?
No, it's not that they're going to take it on because
You're getting something else.
You're getting something else, right? It's the significance of having to lose his contract to bring in a new one.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's possible now. We'll see. We saw Minnesota get involved a little bit.
Veggie's my guy. If we can get a guy in here,
There'll be more teams to take on cap money for draft picks.
Mhm.
That's coming.
Yeah. Carolina's an interesting team to watch. Not related to this. I just didn't realize they had so many picks and so much cap space. They're going to do something. But yeah, Arizona always looking to take on money. Here you go. Canucks might be willing to too if they can figure out a way with some of their injuries.
I don't know, man. Now I'm just sad. I was so passionate after last night.
All right, let's get back to the good
I
stuff
was
on the way.
passionate about last
break.
night. It's just
We liked the additions. They're doing
God.
everything that they're
Yes.
supposed to do. But when they're not on the ice, there's some concerns.
should we mention Matthews or do you want to?
I mean, of all the positive
Well, you
things last night, he
pooped on
just had a
his-
quiet night.
Where he was from. He's not from Ontario. I mean, is he worthy to be talked about because he's not from Ontario?
One thing I
Sammy?
said in my article that may be live now, maybe isn't, is do you need to get Mitch Marner with him for a little bit just to get the big rig going? Just to,
Oh my God!
you know,
you're
prime the
breaking
engine?
up the Ontario line.
Wow, immediately breaking up the
Immediately.
OHL.
We
No
gotta
wonder
figure-
people hate our show.
We got to figure out what we got. And one of the things we don't got is 60-goal scorer Austin Matthews right now.
I'm not.
Just split him in half.
I'm not sure I've ever anticipated a practice tweet more than the lines tomorrow. I really am interested to see what they do at practice tomorrow. I'll be very disappointed if it's just the same.
There has to be a little bit of a surprise that you get 6 in and he's not involved. Like it's
For Matthews, yeah.
for Matthews.
Yeah. Quiet
He
night.
he was zeros, had one shot on goal.
Yeah. You know,
Kind of the way his season has gone all year.
would like to see a couple of games here where you go, oh boy, you know, he took that one over. That's coming, but
Yeah.
it hasn't for a while here, and it's definitely on my radar as something.
So it's coming though.
It's coming.
You believe?
You don't just suddenly at 24 become
What
ungood.
other you don't
Nothing's
have no
not
other
good.
choice but to believe, Sammy.
1 goal in his last 5 games.
Just
Be
be ready. Game 1.
for sure. And you listen, all these numbers get scratched off the second the puck drops to the playoffs. I understand that, but I would like to see many enter the net before then.
Yeah, I think you will.
Few games to go, including the one coming up Friday against the Minnesota Wild. Okay, we're going to take a quick break as we promised. Former Toronto Maple Leaf Stanley Cup champion Brad May up next on the Real Kyper and Bourne show. Let's be back after the break.
real Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
Our boy Sammy working on Brad May, former NHLer, Stanley Cup champion, and former Buffalo Sabre, so he can appreciate the vibe last night from both sides.
Mm-hmm.
And Mayday, I got to think that one of those rare occasions when the game really meant something to Buffalo this time of year. But certainly the line of Ryan O'Reilly and Tavares and Marner did them in real early.
Real early, and it was, boy, how about Toronto? How excited they are to have Ryan O'Reilly, the way he played. And, you know, what a shift he had, scoring 2 back-to-back. But, you know what, Buffalo's a good team. They're getting better, but they're still, you know, they're ways away from, you know, obviously getting to the playoffs. It's another level, and you saw it there. Toronto they were humming. They look really good.
You know, they're so close, this Buffalo Sabres team, to being not just, you know, they're not rebuilding anymore, but to being playoff bound and competitive. Where do you think they should be at in terms of actually adding? Like, I don't think anyone thinks they can win the cup here, but like, should they add to give these guys some playoff experience, give the fans some excitement?
Well, I mean, listen, playoff experience. They got to make the playoffs. There's so many teams. I'm not counting them out. That's for sure. And I think that's the question for Kevin Adams is, you know, would we trade, you know, a draft pick or some youth to get, you know, to bring that player in or a couple? I think that's a tough decision because you don't want to give away the future either, to bring in the right guy. But maybe somebody on an expiring contract that could actually, you know, want to be competitive, possibly sign a contract in Buffalo that they would love. That would be a great guy. That's an older player, I would assume, and somebody who's probably not at the top of their game. So does that player make a difference, you know, trying to chase the playoffs? You could definitely tell, though, the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Buffalo Sabres are at 2 different levels, and last night was pretty indicative of that.
Hey, Mayday, you came close a couple times with some very good teams in Buffalo, but you did experience a Stanley Cup championship in Anaheim, and that came off the backs of course, Timu, Scott Niedermayer, Getzlav, Perry. What is it that Ryan O'Reilly brings the Toronto Maple Leafs that has been missing so far?
Well, I think, first of all, Noah Acciari is going to be a big part of that deal. So he's been kind of forgotten in this whole thing. I mean, he's already scored for Toronto. He's a solid guy. He's the type of player that everybody wanted and needs Toronto to have, right? Bottom 6, gritty forward that puts pressure on the opposition. As for Ryan O'Reilly, it's just leadership. He's won the Selke. He's got, behind Pavel Datsyuk, he might be one of the best, or in Patrice Bergeron, of course. He's one of the best defensive forwards. And he's so legit that face-offs and the way he plays responsibly, that's a huge help. So if he's in the top 6, he might even be in your next line, you know, your third line role. And boy, if he's your third line center and he can shut down the likes of a, you know, Kucherov and a Stamkos or a Marchand or Bergeron and go head to head, all of a sudden Toronto looks pretty solid, right? I mean, if they're able to draw penalties and get that potent power play on the ice.
I mean, how do you feel about loading up the elite guys up top versus spreading it out throughout the lineup in playoffs? We had Ken Hitchcock on who said that in the playoffs, the top 2 lines tend to saw off. Who's going to score in your bottom 6? But obviously the top guys looked really good as a unit last night. Where do you stand on the best method for getting through in the postseason?
Thanks for the question. I think I just said it in some way. Ryan O'Reilly, maybe he's your, you know, your Swiss Army knife, right? He can play in the top lines. Obviously, he's proven that, and he's been a heck of a player. But he's a guy that can shut down. You know, you give him that role, and he's going to relish it. He wants to win a Stanley Cup, and he wants to do well here in Toronto. There's a lot of pressure, and he feels it. But he's been there before. He got traded from the Buffalo Sabres to St. Louis. They're the worst team in the league. January the 4th, if I'm not mistaken, the year they won the Stanley Cup. He goes on to win the Conn Smythe, and he was outstanding. And he had great chemistry with David Perron and his line mates. But Ryan O'Reilly, I like this move. if he's your third line centerman, that's exactly what the answer to that question. He's the guy that's going to saw off the better players on the other side. Now, all of a sudden, he's going to be able to possibly pitch in offensively. And again, if he's your third line centerman, if that's where it ends up, you got a really deep team.
We're talking to Brad May, former NHLer, Stanley Cup champion. Mayday, is the depth now up front enough to maybe cover up a little bit of maybe some deficiencies on the back end and what may come down to inexperienced playoff goaltender?
Here's the thing: are we going to be optimistic, or are we pessimistic, or are we
You listen to our show.
Are we the woe is me? Here we go again group. I just don't know. I think it feels differently for me watching the Toronto Maple Leafs. Yes, they still aren't the best defensive club. I'd love to see, a couple players added that really their mandate, and they'd be so proud and excited to get out there and shut people down. You get that mentality on the bottom six. They all can skate. It's just a commitment, right? And yeah, you need that whole defensive unit, all five players playing solid. But you don't have to hit home runs all the time. Get the puck out of your zone. Let the big boys, let the top two lines, if that's the case, let them run and gun. But the bottom half of your lineup has to be incredibly sound and willing to do whatever it takes. And you know what, Ryan O'Reilly, I don't want to put the cap on him, but he's earned it. He's a great player, and he's aging, but I think he's going to make a difference. And we've seen it already. But again, I like the Noel Acciari. When that trade was made, in my thoughts of the Toronto Maple Leafs, Noel Acciari might make a bigger impact at the end of the day than Ryan O'Reilly, which might be crazy.
Yeah.
One thing we've talked about here that's going to make a difference is Sheldon Keefe finding a way to, motivate and use his guys in the best ways possible. Do you have an impression of Sheldon as a coach? A lot hinges on, his own career hinges on this season probably, and the Leafs' success as well. What are your thoughts on him and the job he's done in Toronto?
Well, I'll go back to the comment when he apologized to the fan base and his team, that the way he talked about them. I didn't like it. I didn't see that as being the right move. But I'll tell you what, his team has responded since that time. They've been great, and maybe you give a little love and a little respect to your top players, and maybe the players throughout your lineup, and they're going to give you more than what they anticipate they have themselves. So I think he's done a great job. Now, we all know this team it doesn't matter. They could win the next 20 games in a row. It's what they do in the playoffs. So we got to wait until then. But for Sheldon Keefe, he wants his players with the utmost confidence and the belief that they can beat anybody. And if he can instill that in his players, listen, coaches do great, but players win games. And he needs his big boys to play.
Mayday, would it help the Leaf players if they played a game called Touch Sheldon like you did with Touch Randy Carlisle?
That's the best day. I don't know if Randy even knows the story happened, but that was amazing. And I'll tell you what, it inspired the group. The boys in Anaheim, we loved it. It was Sean O'Donnell and George Peros brought that game to us, and we played it every day. It was great.
Hey, and there's something to be said that alleviates some of the tension and the pressure. But, the year that you guys won, was he a hard ass? Did he have was it a tough job to kind of keep everybody in line, egos checked, ice times, all of that? And can you compare it to what maybe Sheldon might have to do or be the rest of the way?
The only thing I would say that, maybe there's a lot of differences in personalities and even the personnel, but we had an older team, a lot of aging veterans that were just hungry guys that have been to Game 7s of the Stanley Cup Final and losing, and knowing how hard it is. And these guys, had total buy-in. But I think, it doesn't matter. You don't have to like your coach. I wish I could play the game again and not ever worry about, the popularity contest and, does the coach like me or not? If you're playing and you get to play a little bit more than others, then clearly you're in good standing with your coach. I think Sheldon, it's a balancing act, right? You don't want to be too soft on your players because you need them to be hungry and focused, and you don't want them to lose that that ultra competitiveness, right? Where they got to play from whistle to whistle. But I like Sheldon Keefe. I've actually watched him since Nick, you and I were in Niagara Falls, and we had a great conversation about it. And I like the way the Maple Leafs have responded to him. So bottom line is, it doesn't matter. It's the playoffs, and they got to get there. But the move they just made, they made it before others. Other teams are going to scramble and try to make that difference. And I like that move for Toronto Maple Leafs.
So the deadline over the years has evolved, I think. How has it evolved over your career and from being a player to now? Were you always hyper aware of that day coming up and worried about how the dressing room has changed? Or is it sort of a media creation over the past 10 years that now is this hyper focus and the build up to it?
Well, I think, no, it's been around for a long time. But as a player myself, I got traded at the deadline twice. And once from Phoenix to Vancouver, to a team that wasn't going to make the playoffs, to a team aspiring to really go deep, and then I got traded to a Stanley Cup winning team, the only guy traded at the deadline to Anaheim. And the one thing I could say is I didn't screw it up. Our team accomplished their mission. But it's an exciting time for players. I loved it. It was an opportunity to continue to play and play for others. You're playing for the team the crest you're wearing on the front of your jersey, the team you're playing. But there's scouts in the crowd, and people are looking, and you want to impress them too. So I think it's a really exciting time for players. And, it's not the easiest life, of course, but you're getting paid a lot of money to have a lot of excitement. I think this time of the year is the best for hockey, for the game, the excitement for the playoffs. And this year is going to be no different. But I think to answer the first part of your question, the salary cap's a different part, right?
Right.
It's team. You can't just move players for players. There's so much more, like future and money in, money out. It's much more complicated today than it ever was in years past.
You were fortunate enough to win a Stanley Cup in the latter part of your career. Pat Kane's out there, and he's already got 3. What do you make of his performance the last, week and a half, 2 weeks? And seems like it's a guy that has got a lot of passion here and got a lot of gas in the tank, despite, the thought that maybe his hip isn't 100%. But he's sure playing like a guy that wants to play meaningful games in the spring.
There's no question, Nick. He is preparing to be moved. He's trying to get his game up. He knows. The interesting part is a lot of times you trade for a player on a losing team or a team having a tough season, and that player's got losing habits, and he's not in shape. He's not in the condition that you need to be for a championship, team or caliber. Patrick Kane understands that. I've been watching him too in the last couple of weeks. The goals he's scoring are legit superstar-like goals, and he's basically telling the NHL, listen, if you need the difference maker, I'm going to be that for you. And I bet you that's his motivation. He wants to continue to play. He wants to elevate on that all-time scoring list, and he wants more Stanley Cups. He'd be a heck of a pickup if a team's salary cap can support it.
Mm-hmm. Brad, I'd love to get your thoughts on the likely competition for the Leafs in first and maybe second round in Tampa Bay and Boston. Is Boston beatable? Are there any flaws anywhere? They're up against a couple of juggernauts here.
They are. I guess the answer to that is if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best.
Yeah.
And, I think that's the only thing I can say about it. We can parse this any which way, every which way. But, yeah, the Boston Bruins are putting up one of the best seasons in National Hockey League history. And then you have Tampa Bay who, you just don't – you can't be that confident going in and thinking that you're going to, roll over a team like Tampa. So, but you know what? For Toronto, they got to be hungry. They've got players. They got Ryan O'Reilly now. They got John Tavares, hungry player, captain, so committed to his teammates and winning. And then you got young superstars. Now, this is the window for the Toronto Maple Leafs. With Marner and Matthews, and Nylander's going to have to sign for a boatload of money. You may as well win one before that happens.
One more for me to kind of compare where you were in 2007 when you won the Stanley Cup with your goaltender. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it was a historic kind of spring for Jean-Sébastien Giguère and the feeling that you had knowing that that guy was in there and it was in the zone. The Leafs, it appears that they've had small sample size of some very good goaltending, but nowhere near the feeling of it being a sure thing for them here. So just take us back a little bit to what Giguère meant to you guys in that run, and how important is it that the Leafs get something out of Samsonov to really believe he can be the guy?
Well, you know what? J.S. Giguère, Jiggy as we call him, he's a Conn Smythe winner, right? I mean, he won the Conn Smythe trophy in 2003 in a losing effort in Game 7 against the New Jersey Devils. History and experience are the greatest teacher. So I don't even think we can compare the goaltenders or their situations. I can tell you this. Ilya Bryzgalov was our backup goaltender, and if he didn't stand on his head the first 4 games against the Minnesota Wild, we may not even be close to winning the Stanley Cup. Jiggy was injured, and Briz was fantastic, and he literally was the MVP of the first round of the playoffs for our team. So you just need a hero. You need a guy to step up. Well, if Matt Murray's, if he's healthy and he's playing for Toronto, if that's what's going to happen, he's a winner. He can go back there and he can dig deep and, look into his soul, where he was up, where he's been, and what it takes, and he understands that. Listen, Steve Penny, Montreal Canadiens, when I was a kid, went on a historic run. Cam Ward, young player, went on a historic run. You need your goaltender to be a hero, and why not Ilya Samsonov?
Binnington, one of the
exactly.
best runs, most recent runs for goaltender.
Matt Murray did pretty well, pretty young.
Yeah, he did as well.
So this is not something that has never been done before, where we're like, trying to, figure something out. Teams have heroes, and why can't it be Toronto's goaltender? They made the move last summer. I'm not so sure I was bullish on it, but you know what? He's proved that he's a pretty decent goaltender. The question is, can he hold up under pressure in tight overtime, really tight checking games? Where the goaltender has to beat the other guy down on the other end of the ice. That's a different mentality, different mindset for goaltenders. Talking to Curtis Joseph about that, you guys should have Curtis on and have him talk about his mindset when he's looking down the ice at the other goaltender that he's competing against. Because as a player, I never really understood goaltenders competing against one another. And if you have Curtis on, he can enlighten you. But he was saying that the pressure you feel when the other goalie makes a big save in a big moment, and now the puck's coming towards you, you have to be ultra focused into the moment. And I just love that psyche. As a player, I didn't understand it.
Hey, some great stuff today, Mayday. Really appreciate your time. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Brad May. That's some great stuff today. Yeah, he's a Sheldon Keefe fan.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, what did we read? That he was one of the fastest
to 150 wins.
To 150 wins.
It's Mike Keenan, Bruce Boudreau, and then him.
That's
1, 2, 3.
At the end of the day, that's really friggin' good.
Yeah, that's great.
Incredibly impressive.
Yeah, they've been really, really good under him.
Listen, it's not just here that he's won a lot more than he's lost. It's every stop along the way.
He's like John Cooper, just won all the way up.
Yeah.
Going back to Pembroke, the Lumber Kings, they won every game they played. Like their
they
banner,
won 5 championships in a row or something.
And then the Sioux, they won. The Marlies, they spent a lot of money, as you know, Bourne. Spent a bit more money than the rest of the league, but they still won. It's still a hard league to win in.
See, it's almost like, even if it's circumstantial, that if they don't get out of the first round, Kyle loses his job, he loses his job. That's a resume that would open the eyes out of a lot of clubs to go.
I've wondered that a lot.
What
because his relationship seems to be with Kyle, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not like he's been with Kyle for 10 years. Not like he has all these.
I could see other clubs taking that package.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder how they would view that.
Wow. That as a deal.
Because you've mentioned the fear of like.
I have the fear.
All of a sudden they're gone and it's. You don't know what you got till it's gone type of thing.
Some breaking news.
Break it.
blockbuster trade. Shea Weber's contract has been traded. And a 2023 fifth-round pick to the Coyotes in exchange for Dyson Mayo. So some cap chicanery going on there.
Yeah, that stuff's we're gonna get a lot of that in the next 8 days.
So they traded it's year 11 of 14 on that contract for Shea Weber, I believe. And they traded a 2013 fifth rounder as well with that. I just don't understand how all that stuff works. I'll be honest, this is too much for me, guys. Also, Dyson Mayo leads the league in names that are probably not a real person.
Dyson, spelled with an I.
And Mayo.
And Mayo.
Well, we're going to find out.
Wouldn't say he's having an excellent year, Dyson.
No. Well, Montreal.
A lot of zeros and a big minus.
All right.
We'll keep that. We don't need to clown on poor Dyson Mayo.
No, it has nothing to do with him. I just haven't watched Arizona enough because they're Arizona and they're not very good.
Thankfully, he's not from the area. He's from Victoria. So his family isn't listening to us clown on him for no reason.
For absolutely no reason. I'm so sorry.
The other excellent point that Brad May came up with is just the goaltending situation. And he nailed it. You're going to roll the dice and you're going to hope that it's just Samsonov or like Brizgalov did for him in 2007, finds a way to contribute, and one of them takes it and runs with it. But that's really what you're down to at this point.
I think we've come to a point with goaltending in the NHL where teams aren't necessarily just throwing up their hands, but they're saying, we have one of the 30 guys who might be good on any given week, and we don't really know much more than that.
Is Samsonov way worse than Kemper?
No.
Is he way worse than Binnington?
No, but this is the one thing that I will say I've been noticing about people talking about the Leafs and the goalie situation. It's in Elliott's 32 Thoughts and the Leafs segment is like the Leafs won't make a trade for a goalie unless they can get appreciably better, like definitely better. That to me, we're talking about one goal in a series could turn the tide of the series, literally one goal. So I don't think they need to get appreciably better. They need to get 0.5% better and to take that chance to get someone if they can.
The only thing I come back to you, Sammy, was if you ask, is he that much better or worse than Kemper? I mean, we are talking about the difference between someone on the nationwide tour or a PGA tour.
Yeah, a couple of shots a week.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's not that. It's just tell me if you can perform when the pressure's on. Tell me when you.
You're right.
Very true. When you have to step up and shut the door, can you do it? Not your style of play, not how good you look, but that's where you're more a golfer,
mental,
a goalie to a golfer than a goalie to what I would do on a fourth line or.
Yeah, you can go out there and bring it with energy. Go intimidate, go pound someone, go whatever. Goalie's got to be like
but these guys
locked in like Tiger.
Some of these guys, they tend to get tight when the situation gets tight. And your buddy for all those years, Freddie Anderson, you could look at him all day long and say, good goalie, but
tightens up.
Mm-hmm. And get to the point where he gets hurt when he tightens up.
Yeah.
Yeesh.
He's in 8 career playoff games for Samsonov. He has a .907 save percentage. So
I would take that.
That'd be better than Jack Campbell last year. So it'd be good.
It might have made the difference. I'm telling you. That's why I'm saying.
That's how close it was.
If you can get someone you think's a little better, old veggie out of Arizona.
All right. Another break.
Okay.
They're coming fast and furious on the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. But we're going to take a quick break. You're going to go get a little piece of chocolate, and you're going to pass me a piece just before we come back on air.
Perfect. I love this plan.
And then Colby Armstrong, former NHLer, also former Toronto Maple Leaf, Sportsnet hockey analyst, co-host of Chicklets Game Notes. He hasn't been canceled yet? That's not canceled?
No, it's just like literally the most, other than
Kip.
ours, the best hockey podcast.
Oh, is it? Okay, good. We'll get him
they
to
call
tell us
me, I show up, I crush an energy drink, and away we go.
Oh, we got the real thing, not just Derek Brandeau's list. We got the real thing after the break. Come back, please.
Wheel, Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
Always fun with Colby Armstrong. We'll get him going too.
For sure. Man.
What's he been up to?
He's a busy guy.
I don't see him anymore on Sportsnet.
Well, he does the Penguins broadcasts.
Okay.
He does Skip the Dishes commercials, and he does game notes for Chicklets. That's a big deal now.
And he's got one for I think Intact Insurance or something. Desjardins. Hey. I saw you on a commercial, I think last night, where it's you and a bunch of kids and a Zamboni driver and not a parent to be found. Like, where's the adult supervision, man? You think I would trust my kid with you on the ice?
Oh, you don't think I had that taken care of, boys? You should have seen that day. That day I was absolutely electric, just herding those kids around, handling the parents that were all on the bench at the time. It was a full-on production, energy coming out of everywhere. And I'm surprised you saw those commercials. They're not playing them much, I heard.
Why? I mean, you're a natural.
I'm joking. I heard they're on all the time, which is hilarious. But
Yeah.
and I'm getting chirped. I'm getting chirped for them. Not, one, because they're on all the time, but I'm getting chirped because I'm wearing a helmet. But I was told I was told to wear a helmet, so it's safety first, right?
And I've told these guys when they have conversations on unis, I usually stay out of it. But that's an ugly uni you're wearing. You need it to get involved in better colors and a better logo. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I think the jersey fabric could have been better for sure. It was it wasn't like a real jersey. It was like a penny that you get at soccer practice. It was just one of that mesh material.
Athletic
it could have
knit.
been. Yeah, athletic knit. Yeah, that's right, Bordy. Yeah, it wasn't top high-end jersey quality, but you know what I am, boys? Low maintenance. You know what I do? I just show up and I get the job done. I work. I go to work.
Appreciate that.
Yes. And then
I'm like
moments
Ryan
later,
O'Reilly. I'm like Ryan O'Reilly. That's what I'm
yes.
like.
And then you put your hand out and you go, can I have my money now, please?
That probably make way less than him.
Hey, so order the rings. You all set for a parade in Toronto after watching Ryan O'Reilly last night?
Yeah, what are they? Do you think they're done? Are they going to get some D?
Well,
look at some D.
Can you slow down the conversation here, please? Because we got a lot of people in Leaf Nation that just want to hear positive vibes around Ryan O'Reilly here, and then we'll go there. But what did you see? What stood out for you? What was missing? What has now been filled, in your opinion?
Well, I think Ryan O'Reilly is what they've been trying. They tried to do previously, right? Like Joe Thornton, some of these guys that come in, and I think Ryan O'Reilly's I know him. I've talked to him and met him at several different things. Had Braden Shen, his wedding, and got to hang out with a bunch of the St. Louis guys. And I've been in that dressing room in St. Louis working. That's just such a cool group that they have there, and it starts with a guy like Ryan O'Reilly with what he's able to do. And look at him with coming into this team Canadian.
Oh, we doinked.
Wah, wah,
No.
wah.
Kipper, don't kill me. It wasn't my fault, buddy.
I wonder what prompts the official doinking. It's not like he hits the end button.
It's Sammy.
Is it Sammy?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just Sammy gets a little caught up, I think, in forgetting he produces. That's what I think it is.
Okay. It's a fair assessment, fair take to have. He's like, yeah, good. You're on an island nation in the middle of the ocean? No, that's fine. But he was making the point, old Kolb, about the dressing room and chemistry. And I look forward to asking him or following up about, can you bring that into a team?
Colby has returned.
Colby,
You good?
I want you to finish your point about
There's nothing that grinds my gears more than when that happens to me when I'm doing this stuff. I lose it. I spent 2 years through COVID in my basement doing live TV with bad internet. I have PTSD right now, boys. I'm freaking out.
All right,
Hey,
I wanted
try working here.
I wanted you to finish your point on chemistry, and Ryan O'Reilly.
Yeah.
Can you bring that to the Toronto Maple Leafs from the St. Louis Blues?
I think he can. I think he like oozes leadership. He oozes like the cool personality factor. He cares so much and in the right ways to do it right. He's old school. He can play in hard games. He can do all that stuff. He's grinder, but he's like good. He's skilled, and he's. I think he just brings so much of what they've have been looking for or are looking for, and they've tried to go find other guys, as I mentioned, and Joe Thornton and other guys in the past, and he brings all of that and more.
Doink.
Oh, we're going for the hat trick.
See, this is always the question: is the callback going to happen for?
Do me a favor, Sammy. Get him back on and then hang up right away, and that way we save the next drop, and we'll just burn it so we can get the third one in and keep him, because it's 3. It's never 2.
It's always 3.
Always 3. No. Oh, well, okay. We'll wait for Brad, but. It's the interesting point in what he's saying is that we've watched this group of Toronto Maple Leafs the last few years.
Yeah.
And when it comes to chemistry, I would say it's average at best.
Mm-hmm.
The skill's there, but as
you mean on ice or the guys?
On ice.
Yeah.
On ice.
Okay.
That I haven't really, when I've watched the Leafs the last few years, I've never seen a team that was like really solid in chemistry when it mattered most.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just one guy that can pull it all together and kind of reset everybody when it comes to maybe the energy or the chemistry in a room.
Yeah.
And, Colby, to your point, maybe that's Ryan O'Reilly.
Yeah, that was if this happens again, I'm going to snap. But yeah, I'm going to snap.
Like you did
seriously
in between takes on the kids.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I was trying to drink my coffee, talking to myself like Chris Farley on the bus and Billy Madison. What a beast! Yeah. No, I think he's like a Zen master a little bit too, Ryan O'Reilly, guys. Like I think he has like this way of working with people that is like, totally unique too, kind of outside the box of like the hockey guy style, which he can bring as well. So I think I heard you talk about chemistry. I think he's like a chemistry guy. Like if you went in that St. Louis Blues room, like there is just such a different sense of, and I know, they won the cup and, it has, they have their struggles now and they're kind of blowing the team up a little bit and we'll see what happens. But like that group was just so easy to go into. Like it was just such a family, and it started with him. And like that's kind of like what he does. Like they go out for team dinner. I saw them when I was working a game down in Tampa, and they were out for team dinner, and like they all hang around him. Like they're around him, and he just has a quality of and an ease of which he leads with. And watching him do that, it's just he really is just a really cool guy. But he's just like I think has a great grasp on how to deal with teammates and people to get the most out of them, peer to peer.
I've said, okay, he's not coming back. We're through 3.
Did I not call it?
He did call it.
I'm telling you.
So here's what I was going to say to Colby, which I can happily say to you, someone who has been in dressing rooms and all that. I have had questions in the past about the ability to import that to a team when a core is already built. The core of the Leafs is Matthews and Marner and Tavares and Nylander and Morgan Rielly. That's the core of the Leafs. Bringing in Joe Thornton was never going to change the chemistry of that room if he's playing 12 minutes a night on the fourth line. Same with Simmons, same with Spezza, guys who are not playing. Ryan O'Reilly feels like the first guy they've brought in.
Yeah, because he's legit.
That's going to play 20 minutes or 18, 19, 20.
Or
and have the chance to change
just the thought that he still is in his prime years. And that, yes, he had an off year, and there's some that could say
have to play.
At 31 or 32 that, is he falling off? That was a legit question. But I think even, again, small sample size, but he hasn't dropped off. Like there
and
might
even
be
if it is half
reasons.
A step, he's still really, really good.
He's still legit.
Yeah.
Top 6.
Yeah.
And We never said that about Joe Thornton here.
No.
Or Spezza.
Or any of the people that came in to be
Foligno?
culture fixers. Foligno, you know what?
Foligno, guys, wasn't healthy.
I know, but wasn't he brought in as a top 6
But you
guy?
know what,
Of course
Kyper,
he was.
you know what?
With a first and a third.
Yeah.
Or a
He was
first and a
brought in as
fourth.
that. And, one thing worth mentioning, Foligno was placed in the top 6 with Matthews and Marner, I think, to start, and had 4 points in 4 games and played pretty well. He was kind of what the doctor ordered until he got hurt.
So I just got a text from Colby. He said, "You can't let me go out like this."
He wants back
He's
in.
like, "I got to say bye."
Get him on.
Oh, my God. Okay.
Gonna set a record.
Okay,
4
no,
dropped
okay.
calls.
Boys, I got to tell you, I love doing this show, but there's not anything that I hate more than when the calls drop. The way that Kyper looks at me is terrifying. That's like
so I
going
did
into
the
a
video
corner.
coaching with Sheldon Keefe, and when electronics sometimes just fail, calls sometimes just drop, and you do everything you can to ensure against that. I don't know if Sammy's doing all that.
All I want to know is, does it happen on other people's shows here?
I would imagine.
God, I hope so.
I've
But
never
Kyper, when I
actually-
first started out with Keefe and with that staff, some days I'd go in and I'd be like, the internet's not working. Sorry, we can't do the meeting today. And they'd be like, okay, the internet is not working. I heard that part.
But you are.
But yeah, but we can't do the meeting today is not a thing. That's your job.
Colby is here to say goodbye.
Okay.
back.
Okay.
No.
I
Just keep talking.
No.
Guys, that was a hat trick of drop calls. I don't know if that's ever been done in the biz before. That was absolutely unbelievable. I'm blaming the weather, massive weather advisory warning, but I couldn't go out like that. Thank you, Sammy, for bringing me back on to say goodbye to you guys.
No. Just hang in there. We're gonna hang in there.
Oh my
Oh,
God!
We
Kyper.
are. We are. I'm not letting you go now.
Oh, my God.
I'm not.
What a disgrace! What the heck is going on? Winter
you know,
advisory, boys.
Hey, even with drop calls, we've got great chemistry.
Unbelievable. That's what Ryan O'Reilly does, right?
Right.
Is he the jinx of the dropped calls, though, when we're talking about him? It might be him.
No,
be.
certainly not, because this trade's got a lot of people excited, Colby.
It should. I think it's an exciting trade. I do think it's big for, obviously, the Leafs. I think it's like a massive, Dubas kind of cool move for him, for the fans, and for him, right? For his job, right? Like, they have to get going. They have to have a playoff push. And he's the kind of character, leadership, playoff guy. He is.
Yeah.
So I think, I didn't think, did we hear anything that Ryan O'Reilly might be moving? But, three-way trade made it work, moved everything around. Noel Achari, too. I like him. I like his game. So they got two, kind of veteran guys that can play that style of game and are important. It's big. It's massive. Leaf fans should be super excited about that.
All right, just jamming in questions for fear of losing you. I want to get your take on the Penguins quick, because what's going on here? This is a team up against it. So we're good there, Kyper?
I wanted to go one more with the Leafs.
Okay, stay
Is
with
it
it then.
okay?
Yes,
because
your
I do
question.
want to go to
Okay.
Pittsburgh as well.
Yep, you stay with it then.
Quickly before you drop off, I pushed you off, the rest of the challenges for Kyle Dubas and preparing this team to play Tampa Bay. What are your concerns outside of the Ryan O'Reilly and Achari deal?
Defending.
What do you do now? Tell me what you do.
Well, I think you have to go get a couple rock steady guys, along the lines of, like what Mark Giordano is right now, kind of just rock steady, rock solid, shot blocking, physicality, some kind of guys like that you can go find in the depths to be difference makers through your lineup through a playoff series. Because look, you're going to have Stammer, you're going to have Kucherov, you're going to have Point, you're going to have all these guys that play this kind of, winning style of hockey, but are skilled and know how to get it done. They're going to need, I think, on the back end, some kind of, support in that area. That's what I look at, but I don't know what's Tampa going to do. Tampa's just laying in the weeds right now. It's I don't know if the Leaf fans are kind of worried about that or what they might pull out. I guess it's like just sit and watch right now if you're a Leaf fan to see what Tampa's able to pull off here up to Friday, to next Friday, right?
You assume it's not going to be nothing, that's for sure. Another team that is interesting was the one I was starting to ask you about there is Pittsburgh. What's happening, man? Is this team on the verge of falling out of the playoffs after giving the contracts to those big-name stars there?
The big name guys are playing well for them. It's they're suffering with some bottom six depth issues. Their third line is non-existent right now. They've dealt with several injuries, including 9 games missed to Tristan Jarry. he's important. Jari's super important. Actually, Jari's super important to watch in the next few days and into the Edmonton game. If how his body kind of holds up and rehabbing, coming back from this and playing last game, but it is a little concerning watching. Like I don't know what they're going to do right now to kind of remedy, those depth issues and fix those, or who they can find, or what kind of money they can move around to make everything work. But Jari's the key. Their health is key, and finding a little extra from the depths of their lineup, because the big boys have been carrying their weight. They're getting the job done. And what's one weird thing lately that they haven't been able to do is close out games. Like the Islanders came back on them twice in the last week. Then they played less than 24 hours later in a back-to-back situation against the Devils and the Islanders. That was crazy. But for them it's health. For them it's a look at their depth, and if they can find something that fits. And Kyper, you talk about chemistry. Chemistry is big, I think, with their depth too. Like finding the right mix and chemistry, and what works for guys in certain situations to the depth of the lineup, which I think they've had a struggle with, finding that right now. So that's big for them. Can Ron Hextall do something there, or do enough? But Tristan Jarry, obviously the big piece, who just came back last game. They did lose to the Islanders. Sorokin played out of his mind, but it's going to be a cage match, an absolute cage. There's like 7 teams in the East right now in the mix for those wild card spots, separated by like 6 points. So down the stretch, it's imperative they find ways again to close games out. And I think in the next week and a half, we'll see if they're, going to do anything about it. I heard there's some media here talking about if they go the other way, like save it for next year, try to sell off some guys and save it. And cause you got those guys under contract, right? The big boys, and there's only so much life in them as they age. How do you hit it at the right time? And if this year is not the year, then how do you get prepared for next year? They're talking about that around here as well. So it'd be interesting to see what kind of happens here in the next week and a half, and where the decisions lie on which way they go.
You think your buddy Sid Crosby will be okay with taking a year off of going for it? And how much pressure?
No.
How much pressure is on Ron Hextall and that fan base who are going, well, why did you sign these guys if you're going to take a year off?
I think there's lots of pressure. I think there's new ownership. There's pressure from that angle. There's pressure to, make the playoffs. I think, and they have the longest standing playoff streak in the NHL right now. And, Sid's only missed the playoffs his rookie season. After that, straight playoffs every time. And for the most part, been their team's always kind of been in talks of being a contender. So, I don't think it would sit good with him at all to go, okay, let's just see what happens. So can they straighten it out here? It's do or die hockey. Like the math is they can only lose probably 9 more games the rest of the year to 26 games. That's the kind of hockey they have to play right now if you're doing like what it takes to get in the playoff number, somewhere around 98 points, probably 97 points. So they got to play some pretty good hockey down the stretch. And, I think the next week and a half will be big for what direction their team decides to go and make a push for that. So they signed those guys back for a reason, right? It's to make playoffs and play winning hockey. So I imagine that's kind of the mandate around here.
All right, last one for me, and I'm going to bring it back to the Leafs on the way out the door. Load up the top 6 with O'Reilly, Marner, Tavares, or put 1, 2, 3 down the middle with Matthews, O'Reilly, and Tavares as centermen.
What a great option to have, eh?
It's nice.
Like I've always loved like guys that are. I think every coach probably loves versatility through their lineup, and guys can play both wings, and you can move some centermen up on wing and pop guys around. And I think you have options to do that. And I think that bodes well for playoffs also. But I think if you have to do it, the 3-headed monster down the middle is a nice look in a 7-game series. But if you feel like you need that quality up front and that little bit more punch, you can jump back to stacking it up top. So the versatility factor on any team is huge, especially for the Leafs when they've got the weapons that they do.
All right,
I would stack them. I would stack them up top.
You would.
Yeah,
it's the look right now. Anyways, it's worked after the Buffalo game. We'll see how it shapes up for Minnesota. Plug your co-host podcast, Chicklets Game Nose. How's it going?
Chicklets game notes. Yeah, it's going good. We got another one coming up next week. So we only do one a month, boys. So it's a pretty
one
wait
a month.
until the next one.
It's like an 8-hour show or what?
One a month. Can you be
One a month.
lazier?
No, you can't be lazier. It's actually the essence. It's the peak laziness of work ever, and I'm proud to do it. It's great. It's been fun with Burles. But the thing, I went on Chicklets just the other day, the recent one they dropped, to give a little update on the Quebec Pee Wee tournament, boys. I was super dad at the Quebec Pee Wee tournament this week. My son's team, the Pittsburgh Pens Elite. I never got to go to this. I don't know if you guys got to. It was an awesome
played in
experience. You did, hey? Yeah, it was an awesome experience. It was so fun. The kids billeted. Our boys played their best hockey of the season. We lost by 1 goal. It was 0-0, the greatest 0-0 Pee Wee game ever. And it went to overtime 3-on-3, and the Detroit Red Wings, or the Detroit Little Caesars, beat us 1-0 to go to the final and lose to the Czech Knights team, who was an absolute wagon. Yeah, they went to 3-on-3.
You can't just play OT anymore?
I know, it was crazy. I was on the edge of my seat. It was just nuts. So we had our chances. We had some tears after the game from the boys, but it was a great run. It was a great experience, boys. I went snow tubing. I did the whole carnival. I was just eating poutine like mad, drinking my face off. It was great, hockey dad style.
That's awesome. What rink did you play out of? Was it a full building?
Yeah, it was Videotron the first game. We actually had.
Were you in Quebec City or Montreal?
Yeah, Quebec City.
Quebec City.
Oh, my nephew was there.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was incredible. I'm sure your nephew would share the same kind of sentiment on the experience. It was unbelievable. The pin trading, Kyper. Do you have pins still from when you
we
played
did
there?
the pin thing. Yep.
Oh, that's like insane. Like, it's like crack, it's like,
Get the pins.
Get the pins. They're laying all over the Videotron concourse, trading pins. There's kids everywhere. It's a complete gong show. But we lost our first game to Billy Jaffe's kid, and he was coaching the Boston Junior Eagles, I think they were, the Boston Junior Eagles program. And so we went to the loser side. So then we went to the small side, the little rink, which was awesome because it's like more what we're used to playing in, like, the smaller rinks, regular minor hockey rinks. So it was loud. They were packed. The Videotron was crazy. It was packed. Just an awesome hockey experience. It was incredible.
My year, I went with...
Who'd you play against? Who else was there?
That was the year Sylvain Cote was like the best 12-year-old on the planet. It was like...
But was he like he was 16?
Yeah, no, it was like he was a
maturity?
man. It was like a man out there. He would just end-to-end all day long.
Yeah.
And you're like, what am I doing here?
Well,
I talked to Bob Erie here. He works with us at AT&T Sportsnet here in Pittsburgh. He played in it and was saying, we beat out Yzerman's team, and then we played this guy, we beat them, and then we lost to this guy. Like, he's naming literal NHL stars, which is so
Hall of
so
Famers.
Cool Hall of Famers. Like, he's like, that's when they were 12 years old. The cool thing for me, guys, is to go there. I never got to go to it. I just heard other people talk about it and how great it was. And I was like, okay. But the experience, I was trying to see it through the eyes of my son and being a 12-year-old.
And their kids signing autographs there.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, so
they're stars to the locals.
My nephew is Achilles Kapatanakis is his name, which you may recognize as fairly Greek. And they played their first game against the Ukrainian team that was there. 18,000 people. They sold out every seat in the barn.
Boston team?
Yeah, it's on the Boston Bruins.
Yeah. Guess what? They televised it there.
I know.
It was on like TV. It was like unbelievable. Completely. They called it the whiteout game. Everyone wore white. It was like, can you imagine being a 12-year-old playing in that?
I know, and they were up 2-1 with like 4 minutes to go and ended up losing in regulation to Ukraine. All the fans rooting for Ukraine. So it was insane.
They're going to get a league.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. Everybody wants a league.
A professional Pee Wee league?
They're going to get a league. Pay the kids.
Hey.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes.
Hey, Colby, thanks for doing this, man.
Thanks. Signing off, the new president and CEO of the new Pee Wee Professional Hockey League, Colby Armstrong.
Get us some insurance,
Meetings
too.
are once a month.
You can never have enough insurance.
I got it all covered.
Colby Armstrong.
Right, see you, boys.
See ya, man. And the new real Kyper and Bourne leader of dropped calls.
He's tied in the clubhouse at 3. We had another 3-pack, didn't we?
Who's our 3? Who's Colby tied with in dropped calls?
Kevin Kurz.
Kevin Kurz, was it?
Yes, from the Islanders beat.
guy,
Yes.
Yeah.
That was quite
And that was
good.
within the last month.
How does Colby structure a deal with the Barstool boys for once a month? What is that even? Who's that for? That's
don't
amazing.
know. I don't-
Imagine how good our show would be if we did it once a month.
Or the complete opposite.
It would be fantastic. We just get them all out, all our great ideas. All
I think Fabro's
in one
listening.
show.
Fabs, you can let us know what you think of the once a month program.
See, I got a lot of good ideas, but I'm saving them till tomorrow. That's the problem with the Daily Show.
So the Coyotes made that trade. I saw this great tweet from Craig Morgan, who covers them. The Coyotes legends who have never played a game in their lineup is really shaping up now.
Datsuk, right?
First line, Marian Hossa, Datsuk, Brian Little, with Pronger and Weber on the back end.
Oh, my God.
Dave Bolland will center the second line whenever that materializes.
I don't know if there'd be a better deep pair that you could create
Then
than
Weber.
Pronger,
Oh, my God.
Shea Weber.
Yeah,
Listen, there's something wrong with our system that you can do this.
Yes, there is.
It's just
100% right.
so bad, so embarrassing.
Like, why is any team dealing? The guy's permanently injured, and the team is stuck dealing with the salary cap implications of that.
Like, seriously, like, you players out there, like, how did you agree to this?
I don't
How?
think they understood it. I mean,
How did you let this happen?
it's like when Apple asks me what I think about their terms and conditions. I'm like, yeah, just let me use the phone. I'm
Yeah,
sure someone else has looked at this.
Agree.
Yeah, I'm sure someone else has gone through this. I'm not going to be the one to say no.
Yeah, it's just that was the loophole of all loopholes for teams like Arizona,
Yeah.
that they can bank this
And that
and get away with not spending real money.
I don't even know what they got out of it. They got a 5th rounder. Okay.
Well, then that gets the Coyotes the cap floor insurance, right?
Oh, is that it?
Yeah, they don't have to
Yeah.
pay a lot of money to the actual deal.
Yeah, it just saves you real cash.
Gotcha.
It's stupid.
Way to go. Yeah.
Good job. How exciting.
Anyways, okay. Connor McDavid, 800 points.
How is that possible? How does he have
Draisaitl,
800 already? He's a rookie
700.
yesterday.
I saw that he had 800 points, and that's as flabbergasted as I've been in a while.
I know. 800? That's career. You're bordering on a Hall of Famer soon.
Yeah, like that's.
Another few hundred points.
And how old is he?
Well, 26.
Okay. I saw the list,
Yeah, 26.
and it is incredible. But then, as incredible as Connor McDavid is, how about the fact that there's
What's the list? What are you
4
talking about?
guys,
What list?
fewest games
Okay.
to 800 points in history.
And
of course,
he's first?
Connor?
Yeah.
No, he's
I was
fifth.
gonna say-
Wayne.
Yeah.
Wayne
Yeah, I
won.
heard him.
Wayne, so Connor's at 545. What do you think Wayne's at?
I'm going
Oh.
to say 320 or something.
Well, 352.
Yeah.
Wayne's at
350.
352.
200, almost 200.
That's a joke. What's
no,
next?
over 200.
Well over 2 points per game at that point.
No, just under 200. Yeah. So it's like that's just mind-boggling.
What's the rest of the list, Kipper? Do you have it or no?
Mario Lemieux,
Yeah.
410.
Okay.
Mike Bossy. There's a name I would have never. You think of him as a goal scorer and 50, but
Yeah.
you don't think about him with 525 games to 800 points.
Which is just better than Crosby, I would guess.
Yeah, it's 20 better than McDavid.
It
So
helps.
I don't remember him scoring points like that.
Well,
Do you?
with
Bossy?
Bossy?
with
I
Bossy,
just
listen.
remember the goals. I don't remember
Yeah.
the points or the assists.
When
Short
you
his
start your career going 53, 69, 51, 68, 64, 60,
Yeah, but
that
then
then
That's Bossy?
yeah, I mean 91 points, 126 points, 92 points, 119, 147. Like
oh, I don't. Yeah, I see the 147.
147 is,
Yeah, that can make up a lot.
Yeah.
What was 147 in what year?
in 81, 82,
Which is what, his 4th or 5th year?
his 5th year,
79.
and then who was the last name on that list? Was it Connor, I guess? Was that 4 names?
No, the one we're missing is at 4th, Peter Stastny.
Really?
Yeah,
Where was Sid
there's
Crosby
one
on
that
that list?
not. I only had the top 5.
Okay. Not on it.
Probably
Peter Stastny,
really
huh?
close.
Stastny's got to be the most unheralded point getter of hockey history. All right.
He just had the start of his off of, his production really dipped.
531 to 800 points.
Wow.
Yeah, Peter Stastny, 109, 139, 124, 119, 100, 122. Like, that's how he started, and then after that, he kind of dropped off. But listen to the names that McDavid's with. Like, that's all-time guys.
Yeah, he's an all-time guy. And not to mention, that era of point getting was very different. The 80s were, there was, I think, on average, 8 goals a game for a little while, whereas McDavid's career, it's been 6.5.
We're known to have a few bad goalies
There's
in the
a
80s.
couple.
And the Cookie Monsters took full advantage.
Who was the guy that Hanger was telling us about the other day? Rajon Rondo?
Rajon Rondo.
Definitely wasn't his name.
That
But
guy he was an
Ramon
NBA superstar.
Martinez, yeah.
The guy that was head was
5'6"
below
goalie, yes.
the crossbar.
Yes.
We had mentioned yesterday, big week for the Washington Capitals. They get Ovechkin back, but is it too late? We mentioned Pittsburgh in some serious issues with their playoff spot. Now Washington, Detroit, a huge win last night.
You know why?
Over the Caps, 3-1.
Yeah, huge for their standing
And
chase. They
now
caught
2
them.
points back of the final spot with 4 games in hand.
Yeah, like by points percentage, the Red Wings are flipping in the playoffs. They're in.
The -5 goal differential.
Wild. By the way, the Capitals, who have lost 5 straight, 3-7 in their last 10, are a intriguing seller. If they lose a couple more and decide to start selling guys, you're talking Orlov, you're talking Hathaway, which is both intriguing names for the Maplers.
Can you imagine Achari and Hathaway on the fourth line?
Oh, Kippy couldn't contain himself.
That would be that'd be very
That's
hard
a
to play.
custom-built fourth line for this show.
And you call up your boy Bobby McMahon, put him on the other side, and
Okay.
there you
Run
go.
into
Bob's your
people.
uncle. Bobby McMahon's your uncle.
There's
my uncle.
there's a race for D because it's maybe the Leafs. It's certainly Boston, Edmonton guys. Orlov to me would be a guy that they could use as well.
They got to do something.
Well, he makes more sense.
Ken
for
Holland has to do something.
Yes.
He makes more sense for them than all the other names I hear them paired with. Carlson and Pat Kane. Get someone to defend.
Yes.
Who's gonna score? Like someone who can play
and he
D
can
be mean and
he can shoot the puck.
yeah, oh yeah.
Boys, and the first thing we put on the lineup today, and we didn't mention it, was Jake Muzzin. So we
Yes.
should maybe spend a couple
That's
minutes.
wild. We missed that till now.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's,
The Leafs officially announced that Jake Muzzin will miss the rest of the regular season and playoffs due to cervical spine injury, and we all knew that was coming. So
I didn't.
I thought I wrote it about a month and a half ago.
Yeah, I don't believe you though. I held out hope like a kid at Christmas.
Not necessarily, at least officially, a career yet. They said that they'll reassess this at some point, maybe in the summer or at training camp. But it's really a shame for so many reasons because he still had a lot to give, I think, when he was healthy. And something that's sorely missed is most recently the second and third period in Boston. Against Buffalo, I should say.
There is a Muzzin-sized hole in the Toronto Maple Leafs line.
God, and just the other things he provides. You talk about the dressing room and leadership and character. You got O'Reilly. If you had another Muzzin, like you'd feel so good about this team, and you still do. But
Yeah.
it is missed, and you do feel like that needs to be replaced somehow. God, he was effective last year in the playoffs.
It really,
Him and Brody were a pair.
the way his career here played out, I don't feel like it could have gone, much worse in terms of the injury luck. Like you think about that weird injury he had against Columbus, and then he goes out against, and so the Marincin is a name I don't like to speak, was playing a lot against the Blue Jackets, and then he got a bad injury against the Habs. It's just it's just played out badly.
Yeah.
And they paid a stiff price for him, and
yeah.
it's one they had to.
Kyle's done 2 deals with the LA Kings. They're
Correct.
2 separate deals. One was around Jack Campbell, and the other one was around Muzzin.
They got Muzzin for Dursey, Grunstrom, and a first, I want to say. Was that what that was? And then the other one was...
Just straight Muzzin, that's it?
Yeah, and then the other one was...
No, Clifford too.
No, that was with Jack
Clifford
Campbell.
was with Jack Campbell.
That was the one that was with for a second-round pick and Trevor Moore, I believe, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
So-
Muzzin has played almost 200 games as a Maple Leaf. You know, like it's not like he came here and couldn't contribute at all. And he had great stretches with them too. And
I thought sometimes he was just a rock.
yeah, he was an important part of what they were trying to be.
He was the most important guy in their decor for when he was healthy and
Yeah.
playing at his best. He was really huge for them. Really huge. So,
But yeah,
And-
but you're right. He just hasn't been able to be in the lineup.
Are there a
At the key
dozen
points.
Muzzins out there? Yeah, and when you get them and they can contribute 20 solid. Like that's the one thing too, right? Is like there's some nice guys can find them way to have a 21, 22, 23 minute night, but can you do it every night
Yeah.
and be successful, efficient,
Mm-hmm.
productive?
You know, who do you feel great about going over the boards in late in games? Mark Giordano's that for me. Like I feel very comfortable there. Muzzin was that
I'm
guy
a little
for a long
nervous on Giordano coming down the stretch if they don't rest him a little bit.
time. I saw his interview with Elliott and Jeff, and he said he doesn't want
Yeah.
to be
Yeah, but-
rested, and he doesn't want to anyone to suggest it to his coach because he wants to play.
okay.
Dude, can you look up icings?
He was
How many?
first.
Oh, he's got to be the first in every league in the world.
There's
He
the
has to be number
first
one.
sign that he might be tired is, I don't know,
Or he's-
icing the puck.
Yeah, he's smart too. There's not a huge punishment for icing. There should be. Should not be able to ice the puck twice within 20 seconds. It's my theory. But yes, he ices it a lot.
I don't know. I appreciate him not wanting to take a day off, but come on, be a parent. Tell your kid
Yeah.
to get to bed early.
Love that analogy. Yeah. It's like, it's great that you don't want that. We appreciate that. We love that you love to play. Take a couple off here, fella. Well, the hope is that the Leafs can be in a position that down the stretch they can rest some guys, give some guys some time.
I'd like to see the process start now with Giordano. I don't want to see it 3 days before the end of the season or the last game.
what do you want to see, like actual games off?
I'd like to see him, take 2 or 3 of 24
Yeah.
left.
Okay. I can live with that. I can get on board.
3.
Get Timmins some more reps and
Maybe they can play him at the wing and have in-game load management like John Tavares.
Yes, load management. Is that the term?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what Kawhi made it famous.
All right, just like that, 2 hours gone by, we solved nothing.
we did talk to Colby 4 times, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, so thanks to Brad May and 4 times we want to thank Colby Armstrong.
Thank you.
And all of you, of course, wherever you are watching or listening, Sportsnet 590, The Fan, YouTube, we're back again tomorrow to do it all over again. Have a great night, everybody.